This video will show you how to report on Target G using the online Sendai Framework Monitor system. Target G is to substantially increase the availability of and access to multi-hazard early warning systems and disaster risk information and assessments to the people by 2030. To know more on the data and methodology to estimate the availability of and access to multi-hazard early warning systems and disaster risk information and assessments to measure the achievement of Target G, refer to the TGN. Before beginning with reporting, make sure you have selected the correct reporting year. The year should reflect the year of the data, or the reporting period, and not the year that you are inputting data. For example, if you are inputting data collected from the calendar year 2017 for the 2018 reporting cycle, then the reporting year selected is 2017. It is important to make sure that the reporting year is correct every time you log into the system, as the selected year may not reset. Indicator G1 is a compound indicator which will be computed into the Sendai monitoring system once you feed data for G2 to G5. This means that data does not need to be entered for G1. If you have entered data for G2 to G5, the system will calculate the value for indicator G1, an average score of G2 to G5. To begin reporting for G2, your country coordinator will need to define major hazards in the disaggregation page under Global Targets and Setup, if this has not already been done. Click on the button Select Hazards to find a list of predefined hazards and tick major hazards relevant to your country. You can also add hazards by clicking on the button Add More. Once you have selected relevant hazards for your country, this disaggregation will show up in the reporting for G2. Next, select your data entry option. For the minimum option, you will indicate whether your country has multi-hazard monitoring or forecasting systems by hazard by selecting yes or no for each hazard in your country. For the recommended option, you may rate the quality of the multi-hazard monitoring or forecasting system based on sub-indicators to be answered by 5 levels, from 0 to 1. Details on the 4 sub-indicators used for these ratings can be found in the TGNs. For both data entry options, you must assign appropriate weights for each hazard. You may consider determining impacts and weights of hazards based on potential impacts on human or natural hazard risk, historical records, some expert criteria, or national objectives and targets. Refer to the TGNs to learn more about weightings for major hazards and to see examples. Within the monitor system, weights can be inputted as figures of your choice. For example, if a hypothetical country had 4 major hazards, which are defined by risk assessments and historical records to cause the same levels of impact within the country, weights could be assigned as 25% for each hazard, for a total of 100%, or 0.25 for each hazard for a total of 1. Weights can also be assigned as ratios, where in this case, the 1:1:1:1 ratio of the 4 hazards impacts means you would input 1 in respective cells. Indicator G3 is the number of people per 100,000 that are covered by early warning information through local governments or through national dissemination mechanisms. First, you will select one of the data entry options of either recommended or, if not available, use as proxy penetration rate or coverage of primary media or mode of multi-hazard warning system. Under the recommended option, you can enter the number of people covered by multi-hazard early warning systems. The denominator, estimated population exposed to hazards, is to be entered under G6. If the data of exposed population is not available, the number of total population could be used. Under the second option, you can give a score for mass media coverage, including radio, TV, internet, email, SMS, social media, and apps, and local communication systems including Siren, Public Board, and phone on a scale of 0 to 1. Once you have entered the necessary data under one of the options and submit indicator G3, the system will generate the score of G3 on the top with a scale. Indicator G4 is the percentage of local governments with a plan to act on early warning. Plans to act on early warning may include preparedness plans, evacuation plans, response plans, or any other plans describing early warning response and evacuation. There are two options for entering data. One is minimum, which is the simple count of local governments with a plan. This method is relatively easy, as you would simply provide the number of plans. The second or recommended option is to enter information about quality of local plans by local governments. The quality of plans can be reported based on 3 sub-indicators, and more information can be found in the TGNs. Once you enter the required data, under one of the options, the system will generate a score for the indicator G4. Indicator G5 is on the Disaster Risk Information and Assessment. If you have already selected hazards in disaggregation, the same hazards as the ones used for indicator G2 will show up here. Quality of assessments is done considering 4 sub-indicators, which are accessibility rate, how far the assessments are based on the most scientific approach, whether assessments are the product of a national consultation, and have clear responsibilities. More information on these sub-indicators can be found in the TGNs. Once the required data is entered, click on Submit Indicator G5, and the score of the indicator G5 will be generated in the system. Indicator G6 is on protected population through preemptive evacuation following early warning. To compute this, click on G6A and enter the value for the number of people protected through preemptive evacuation, and also as a denominator, the estimated population exposed to hazards. If the data of population exposed to hazards is not available, the total population in municipalities, districts, or communities in the affected geographical areas shall be considered as exposed. If you have made mistakes or would like to revise, you can click Reopen the indicator to make any changes and click Submit Indicator again.